sponsored by the De Gama Group.
Hi there, welcome to Rumbo Minero. I'm Cesar Campos, and this is our producer, Miguel Zavala. We'll be leading today's program. How's everything, Miguel?
Hey, Cesar, nice to meet you.
A pivotal week, a week of great significance during which the foremost leaders of the Asia-Pacific Economic Forum will convene, Miguel, in our homeland. Expomina, in its 2024 edition, specifically discussed various topics that will likely echo the concerns of these 21 economies, including innovation in mining and small-scale mining. There's a pending law, the MOPE, that the executive has not yet finalized its presentation. And lastly, everything about critical minerals, which were the topics we addressed at Expomina.
That's right. Well, with this meeting next week, we are putting a definitive end to a whole cycle of meetings that have been taking place since March within the framework of APEC, and also amidst a rather complicated situation.
A political crisis that can't be hidden. Mrs. Dina Boluarte's government, Miguel, is in a weak situation, and that's not just wishful thinking, but rather a concrete analysis of what's going on in our country. All right, but we will certainly discuss the economic landscape here. Joining us is former minister and noted university professor Jorge González Izquierdo to talk about mining, illegal mining, and insecurity in society. There's another guest.
Indeed, Cesar, and we will also be joined by Iván Arenas, who is a consultant specializing in mining, hydrocarbons, and public management, to talk about this crucial subject known as Reinfo. Wouldn't you agree?
That's
and
right.
Everything seems to indicate that it will have a new expansion.
Unfortunately, I fear that the majority of Congress, this populist Congress, will make that determination. Now let's join Gabriela Chicoma for the key mining news of the week.
Thank you, Jorge. Here are the week's main mining headlines. The Ministry of the Environment, led by its head, Juan Carlos Castro Vargas, has made its position clear regarding the Comprehensive Mining Formalization Registry Reinfo. According to the official, the executive believes that the Reinfo, a tool for the formalization of miners, should not be extended again. Rather than moving forward with this, the executive suggests introducing a new law for mining formalization led by the Ministry of Energy and Mines. Carlos Galvez, the ex-head of the National Mining Society Oil and Energy, the NGO Red Mookie conglomerate, has indicated that they are engaged in a media campaign to halt the development of the Tia Maria mining project, planning to create 9,000 new jobs during construction and an extra 4,800 jobs permanently for the Tambo Valley's population. They spread false and alarmist messages regarding the initiative of Southern Peru Cooper Corporation that would endanger garlic production and causing both products to possibly disappear from the local market down the line. Angela Grossheim, the executive director of the National Mining, Oil and Energy Society, states that the chances of a new Reinfo extension being approved are quite high, especially given the executive's delay in submitting the law for small and artisanal mining, MAPI. The Reinfo expires this December, and what Congress seeks is to extend the Reinfo without any analysis, he said.
As previously stated, the renowned economist and former labor minister is here with us at Rumbo Minero. Jorge González Izquierdo, who we will talk with, regarding this bleak scenario that emerges with the significant likelihood of Congress granting an extension about Reinfo. Jorge, it's great to see you again.
Cesar, good. Thank you very much for the invitation to you all.
Well, according to figures from the Peruvian Institute of Economy, we are already in a situation that is really terrible, Jorge. It can be. Recognizing that this pre-year 2024 sees a surge in the trade of illegal gold has been 41%, reaching $6.840 billion in mobilization of this mineral resource. We restate that. It's against the law, yet it seems the Reinfo extension will go ahead despite its failure. What's your take on this?
Those who manage the statistics claim that already the practice of illegal mining, which is considered criminal, I would be getting over it by now.
To the drug trade.
When it comes to drug trafficking in Peru, right? This gives you a clear picture, the gravity of the situation. And clearly about the Reinfo, it is unanimous now that the outcry is that it has been a failure, right? This is why I am deeply captivated when I see some politicians, especially those in Congress, want to extend it for at least another year. That this is to extend it, wouldn't you agree, for at least another year, when Tyrians and Trojans are talking about this to shield illegal mining, to ensure the protection of illegal mining, don't you think?
Is there any method to distinguish illegal mining from informal mining? No. This is due to Reinfo, as if it masks the true nature of both groups, naming a high commissioner to tackle illegal mining, even stating they wanted to use. With this, designating a high-ranking official to fight against illegal mining, even mentioning their desire to enforce plans, right? Or programs similar to those used in drug trafficking against the fight against drug trafficking to tackle this illegal mining problem in terms of agriculture, right? Involving seed exchange and so on, which unexpectedly does not correspond to the current reality regarding the issue of illegal mining. What are your thoughts on this matter?
No, look, unregulated mining, the plan is to legitimize it, isn't it? So that it meets the minimum requirements in terms of taxation, labor, and environmental conservation. Illegal or criminal mining does not. It comes in and devastates. If it needs to take down trees or cause serious ecological damage, it does so without hesitation. It doesn't shy away. It's just a matter of maximizing utilities. How do I increase my income first and then my utilities? Thus, if there should indeed be a difference between informal mining, which should be transitioned to formal status, from illegal or criminal mining, of course. One of the main differences I see is in the aspect of environmental conservation, right? One is harmful. The other should not be exploitative, since that's where the government should intervene. To preserve this in how I convert it little by little, gradually, because that is not violently into mining. Formal, isn't it? However, the other one you must, if you need to pursue her, because she is almost eating up the whole thing.
Where it ends up, huh? A slight expansion on the interpretation of the question posed to you by Miguel Jorge. We have to point out that narrow line, that slight border that the state seems to overlook. Still defining, right? Small mining, known as small-scale mining internationally, or artisanal mining, for which the executive power even announced its intention to present a legislative proposal. And still, as we approach the end of this first legislative session of the year 2024 in Congress, they haven't got it yet in their hands. How do you believe this standard could aid in the genuine identification of individuals in the mining sector as artisanal and small-scale?
As you have just mentioned, the line that divides it is quite thin. It's like keeping their distance, but it's somewhat similar to what happens with drug trafficking, isn't it? Where there is also a goal to deter, let's say, coca cultivation or opium cultivation, which is happening here in Peru and no one is talking about it. Of course, another set of crops, we could say, typical ones. There exists an extremely thin line because the farmer who could be growing potatoes, to give an example, it can quickly shift from one harvest to another, from one campaign to another. One can quickly shift to cultivating this coca or this type of criminal crops, right, pursued by the law. Then there you really have to work, really, very finely. And what needs to be understood, Cesar, is that what guides there is profitability. The miner who wants to do his mining, and if you want to propose an alternative business to him, it has to be equally profitable or more profitable than what he could obtain from that because otherwise the rest is just stories. Already Peru has been consumed 5 years in the desire to cease the cultivation of coca and opium in farming and so forth. Since the farmer, you know, he must eat, he must live. So if I join in, how much will I earn? 100 souls. The government proposes this, but I won't earn 20 souls. I remain here. And if you ramp up the repression, you could temporarily force him to do this, but at the first chance he gets, individuals return to this place as the search for profitability is a strong driving force within humans.
Last week, we met with Mr. Herrera, a political analyst. We inquired whether that subject of related to the Reinfo, and at this moment with this law project A, MAPE, ought to unexpectedly possess some kind of benefits so that informal miners or artisanal miners or small miners can formalize and pay taxes in a staggered manner. Don't you think? Or by unexpectedly providing amnesty to a few, some in the early years, and then they start to pay taxes in a stepwise fashion. Do you think this could be a solution?
Yes, you know why? Because for the miner, it is also a learning process. They are individuals with low productivity levels, of low quality. I mean not criminal behavior, but informal behavior, with very low levels of education and training. Therefore, if you want to pull him out of there and make him formal, you have to fill those gaps, and that takes time. During this time, you must accompany it with measures that I believe should imply some kind of involvement, some kind of help, right? Both tax and financial, of that sort. Also training and education of technology. That's fundamental, isn't it? And that takes time. So you can't be so abrupt as to come at them with the full weight, let's say, of the law, in quotes, right? The tax regulations. Sure, you hit it off right away and you send him to informality. Make formality appealing. Informality cannot be fought with force. Make formality appealing to fight informality. Many politicians don't get that. A lot of mayors don't understand why mayors do what they do, which is that they fall into the, vendors take away their merchandise, and they believe that this is how they combat informality. They are very mistaken.
Absolutely. Still, I wanted to mention that the Ministry of Energy and Mines has put forth a multi-sectoral policy for the year 2050 about mining that may, to add some of these points you mentioned, Jorge, especially regarding training and the attraction that any mining producer must have, no matter if it is artisanal or small scale, is to have a formal operating title regarding this activity. Do you believe that there, in this multi-sectoral aim, I emphasize again, from the government, we would find the possibility that all of you in academia can contribute and add to having a real and optimal vision of mining?
Here in Peru, unfortunately, we have a deficiency in what is called the microfinance industry. It exists,
yes,
but it is still emerging. Because what they are going to lend to that small artisanal miner, whom we are trying to help grow and become formal, are not from large banks, nor from large or medium financial institutions. They will be the microfinance entities. They are the ones who must, let's say, take that role. And there we should also look for opportunities to support the development of microfinance in Peru. Because the market by itself will lead them. They should be aimed at these sectors, shouldn't they?
I have two last questions for you, Jorge. First, we will end the year with an average mining investment of $4,600 million. And within that, there is also the topic of the beginning of the construction of Tia Maria. I have a question. Have we managed to recover the trust of investors with the rollout of these projects, especially the Tia Maria matter, assuming that nothing strange happens and construction starts at the beginning of next year? And the second one too, regarding APEC, right? What the heck expectations for this meeting?
During the good years of mining, the investment was $10 billion. And after a few years, if we are investing 4 to 5 billion now, we are at half of what was typically invested in mining. That indicates how the profitability and viability of the mining business in Peru have been impacted. The departure of Tia Maria and the larger projects that have been mentioned, but still nothing is visible. If Aunt Maria comes out, as announced by Southern, then what? Has even set a date to start the construction work. That would certainly send a very strong message to other investors, especially foreign ones. Isn't it so that the mining industry would be gaining traction again? But as you rightly mentioned, we must check if indeed Tia Maria begins to build strongly, since the first part is a construction stage. Strongly because it might be that they enter into remodeling to remove earth to do the initial work. And let it be as it is, since the investors, it's not that they lack knowledge, they will see that. It's not like I'm coming in and making renovations. I mean, you're moving soil, establishing the conditions, but then suddenly you just stop continuing. Thus, that is the matter we should focus on. But if it were actually done, of course, it would be a very good sign for the outlook in mining, isn't that so?
Jorge, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you very much for your opinions and comments that also enlighten our audience at home.
No, thanks for the invite.
We will have another chance for you. Jorge González Izquierdo, ex-Minister of Labor and noted economist, was here with us on Rumbo Minero. A quick break and we will be back.
Set and ready.
It's done.
Jose, got a photo? That's it.
For the year 2025, the mining investment in Peru is projected to be over $6 billion, establishing the country as a key global mining destination. Through Expo Mineros and Suppliers MinPro 2025, we promote commercial transactions in the major mining industry and its suppliers. Book your stand and join the most complete mining fair in the industry. Exhibitions, conferences, and business rounds all in one place from June 24th to 25th at the Lima Convention Center. Do business with the leading economic force of Peru. Don't miss out and reserve your stand at minproperu.com.
Well, let's now move to our international segment, American Mining. As usual, we will have a dialogue, of course, one that is quite enriching with José Gonzáles, who is based in Lima. He is our editor for the international section of the magazine Rumbo Minero. It's nice to see you, José.
Great to see you, Cesar.
Well, José, look, BHP, the largest copper mining company in the world, just published a very interesting report that we've been discussing with you earlier. So he has called it How Copper Will Shape Our Future. The title itself is interesting, don't you think? They mentioned that the metal, copper, is in the 21st century an essential block to improve the living standards of the planet and enable a transition to a net zero economy. Hey, what kind of cut does this BHP report edition showcase?
Yes, Cesar. In the wake of the S&P Global Report from July 22, titled The Future of Copper, the implications for copper's future became apparent. It was pointed out that the potential limitations on the copper supply could result in a short circuit during the energy transition. BHP recently released this report claiming that copper mining... This is the biggest company, as you noted, in the world of copper. The report is titled, as you have indicated, How Copper is Performing. Mold our future. This states that copper has been part of human civilization's history for millennia. In the 21st century, it notes that copper has been intrinsically linked to the rise in electricity demand, being crucial for energy systems and modern technology. What you just stated, indicating that in the 21st century, it will become a vital component for elevating life standards globally and enabling a transition to a net zero economy, the decarbonization effort. The report indicates that the demand for copper is likely to be resilient. Copper is a noble metal that will prove challenging to replace with any other material. It says that demand will grow by 2% each year until 2050, expanding by 70% to reach 50 million tons annually. BHP states that copper demand will change from the current traditional demand of 92% to 71% by 2050 during the transition, which currently makes up 7% and will rise to 23%. This is compounded by digitalization, with the essential data centers for artificial intelligence expected to increase from 1 to 6%. The challenge regarding supply, BHP notes, will occur for both greenfields and brownfields due to the existence of mines nearing depletion, factors associated with rising costs as mines get older, larger, and more costly, and the various dynamics associated with the different stakeholders connected to mining production activities. According to the report, the largest supply in absolute terms will be from Latin America overall, especially Peru. Latin America will provide half of this demand increase and half of that half.
Of Peru. What intriguing and essential information, I suppose, Jose. Also, it will be part of the discussions, the debates, and talks we will have in the next few weeks on November 26th at our Peru Mind in Business event, where the Digama Group, as is its custom, especially through the Rumbo Minero program, links suppliers to the top mining leaders. So, how do you see the nature of this event, and what items are we going to address?
Depending on the APEC meeting, which is this one, from November 9th to 16th this year, our Peru mining business will concentrate on various subjects, especially the effects of the summit on overall economic dynamics and specifically on the mining sector, as well as the competition for Latin America's natural resources between East and West. Margaret Myers, head of the Asia and Latin America program at the Inter-American Dialogue in Washington, will talk to us about Chinese investments in Latin America and the impact of Xi Jinping's visit to Peru, specifically on Peruvian mining. Energy and Mines Minister Romulo Mucho will address the mining project portfolio and expansions for 2025 and 2026. We will have a segment on the economy and prospects for mining in Peru, in which Carlos Gallardo from IPE will participate, Carolina Trivelli of IEP, and Carlos Adriancen of UPC. In the section that contains the mining panel and the pre-electoral political strategy, we will be joined by Fernando Rospigliosi, a congressman from the Republic, and Juan Carlos Tafur, director of Sudaca, Maria Cecilia Villegas of Conscious Capitalism Peru, and Augusto Alvarez Rodriguez from the University of the Pacific. Jorge will open the event with Minister Mucho. You, Cesar, you will moderate the political focus panel and correspond with me in a presentation about global trends and the Latin American situation, with special emphasis on the copper outlook. See you
I
there.
would like to clarify something which I notice has not yet been communicated to you. Unfortunately, in the political bloc, we will not have Congressman Rospigliosi or Maria Cecilia Villas because they are making their way to the CADE. As you are aware,
Correct.
There will be a meeting of the CADE at that time. We will have Juan Carlos Tafur, Augusto Alvarez Rodriguez, and Diana Seminario, three notable and skilled journalists set to conduct their analysis on the eco-political outlook of our country. Thank you very much, Jose, for being with us. José Gonzáles, editor of the international section of our magazine Rumbo Minero, which you can access completely free of charge. How? Downloading the same magazine from www.rumbominero.com with all the information and everything we work on in a strong dialogue with José Gonzáles and other things we mentioned in the program. You will see it reflected in our magazine. We immediately move on to the mining assets segment, AMSAC.
The environmental situation in Luroya was extremely complex. Peru was required to assume its role as a guardian, ensuring the health of both the population and the ecosystem.
Once upon a time, the streets and trails were just mud and soil. That's where the pollution was, you know. And that has changed, as it has already taken care of mining assets. Everything that has been poisoned, let's say, the environment has already been covered.
Marcaval has grown a lot in recent times, especially in business and transport. Jobs have been created. It's a whole new level of living. This place, as it says, it has progressed considerably, hasn't it? Thanks to this, we have achieved further development of our association here in Alto Marcavalle, correct?
Even the animals previously suffered from the lameness that is mentioned. The lameness affected little animals that couldn't walk due to the pollution. Today, that disease has disappeared.
In these areas, with exposed and contaminated soils, I played with my brother, friends, and family. Working for a company that has initiated change in La Aurora fills me with happiness. Today's children have a completely different reality.
As we mentioned earlier, Iván Arenas is here with us, a notable consultant in mining, hydrocarbons, and public management who often participates in our program. Iván, how are you? Welcome as always.
Thanks, Cesar.
We remain worried about the ongoing concern that the Congress of the Republic moves forward with the extension of the Comprehensive Mining Formalization Registry called Reinfo. And what, honestly, it's scary from any viewpoint, because there is already a fifth bill which even states that there would no longer be a deadline for the Reinfo to close. Share your opinion, Iván.
Many approaches on that, Cesar Miguel. The first is that evidently the Congress, as I understand it, and because of the political games at play, I believe Congress is set to extend the Reinfo. Isn't that so? It's obvious, since a majority of Congress people have acted this way before, and they will do so again. Secondly, the Reinfo, which is part of the formalization process for artisanal and small-scale mining, also includes mining activities. In some cases, this Reinfo is part of the formalization system, and an absolutely failed formalization system. We are talking about a failure of the system, aren't we? The third approach might very well be that when faced with the Reinfo, ideally, it would be the enactment, and I mean enactment, but at the very least, we should have a healthy, honest, sincere, and technical discussion on something essential, the artisanal and small-scale mining law, which is being pushed in various ways.
The MAPE law.
It's the MAPE law. The Congress obviously has political timelines, and the political situation won't allow for any discussion in the committee. So what there will be is therefore an evident expansion of the Reinfo, and this is also due to the pressure from hundreds of miners in the process of formalization. They'll begin to do their thing, which is to protest, right?
Indeed, Iván, well, Maximo Franco, the individual serving as the president of the National Confederation of Small and Artisanal Mining, they said they are in touch with the Energy and Mines Commission of Congress about a few points, because they mentioned a ruling was going to be issued unfavorable to them, and that they have managed to halt that ruling, that they are coordinating with the Congressman Quiroz. Does he have influence? This relationship in the Mining Commission of Congress?
Of course, it is an influence, a very important influence, not only because of the number of people it has, but also because of the economic movement it generates. But also, this economic movement is connected to some political support from congressmen, right? So they have a lot of power, and evidently Congress does not want to fight with such an important force, both socially and economically, as the artisanal miners or miners in the process of formalization are. So also knowing that Segundo Quiroz, the congressman, isn't well versed in the matter, it is clear that in this case, the agreement with Reinfo has been pretty much like a Cain deal, a pardon from Goliath to David. So clearly it will support those who are, in one way or another, the mining Davids, and what it will essentially do is support them through the Energy and Mines Commission.
I concur with your perspective that this Congress is undoubtedly going to endorse and ratify. A, the extension in the Reinfo, and with the risk, we reiterate that this may no longer have a defined deadline, but you have alluded to the MAPE law. That could be initiated or push the government, the executive branch, to propose the proposal so that it can be debated. In reality, there wouldn't be enough time. Is it conceivable to unexpectedly summon an extraordinary legislative session extending the first session of the year 2024? they are formulas that can be used.
Indeed, yes. However, I think it is extremely challenging, not just because there is one project. There are, if I remember correctly, 4 projects, including, and that the project from some business groups regarding miners is also not included there. So there would be about 4 or 5 projects, and the first thing is to stick with one project. In other words, that already takes a certain amount of time. So I think political time isn't real, even if they can extend the legislative period. But honestly, I don't think so. Currently, the Congress members do not possess sufficient willpower to tackle an issue that is economic, social, and furthermore political. Thus, they would have to come to an agreement first with the law, then debate it article by article, chapter by chapter. It's quite a tedious matter that doesn't lend itself to the discussion of the next legislature, right?
Now, the issue also comes up with the Constitutional Tribunal regarding this matter, which would be the last entity that which could to give an opinion on the constitutionality of this controversial record, right? What role would the Constitutional Court play concerning the Reinfo? And if this happens to end, okay, what might follow after this? No, as we are discussing that we are putting on trial what could potentially be the MAPE issue in the future. In short, everything would be left unresolved.
Listen, but there's an essential point here. So what do you do if, let's say, the Constitutional Court has ruled that the petition against the Reinfo is valid and proceeds to eliminate the Reinfo, meaning in some form or another, it constitutionally dictates the passing, so to speak, of the Reinfo now in December. The Reinfo is an extraordinary record. Well, there is an ordinary registry that is more tedious, more bureaucratic, and heavier. Thus, to streamline the process, to make it, so to speak, quicker, the registration took place in the year 2012, known as the Reinfo. So if the Reinfo disappears, you will still have the ordinary route, and the ordinary route is better than the Reinfo. If this is the special route, where you apparently have 5 characteristics to standardize your Reinfo and finally present and be certified as a formal miner, if you take that away, you face another issue, which is the standard formalization, and that certainly is a problem. So the Constitutional Court, in one way or another, must determine what the best solution is, as I was saying, because what would you do now? What would you do in December? You lack a MAPE law. The Congress does not engage in discussion about it, and furthermore, you adhere to it, meaning you comply with the dissolution of the Reinfo. You leave many on the street too. So let's think about it, okay?
Well, Iván, finally, in a graphic version of what could be called praying to God and hitting with the hammer in the first vote, the National Parliament, proposed the creation of a multi-sectoral authority to combat illegal mining and its related crimes and to propose the socio-economic development of the regions affected, the famous ANCOMIN. Do you actually see viability in this new game where on one hand they pretend to combat illegal mining but extend Reinfo?
It's impossible because, look, pay attention, it's something different from that illegal mining for which there is absolutely no concession and we cannot grant any license. In addition, it is mining that is being formalized. To clarify, this is important because if you believe you want to create an authority thinking that all miners in the process of formalization are criminals, so what you're doing is criminalizing the informal miner, and I think that's not the true. The flexibility of the reinforcements lets illegals make use of them. We can't deny it. But if you mistake how the authorities are going to handle it, that is, assuming illegal mining is synonymous with informal mining, I believe there is indeed a problem. Even in large companies, even presidents of large associations have understood that this is a process they must undertake together. Therefore, first, we must discern and place, let's say, the terms and concepts in their proper place, right?
Finally, Iván, have you been able to review a bit about this topic, the MAPE bill? Far removed from the possibility of time running out, it could be, well, this brought up in Congress and cannot be passed. But do you think it is a good law that could stand in for to the kingdom, or are we talking about more of the same?
Look, let's get to the heart of the matter. What is all this about? In terms of environmental matters, there are management tools for the environment. They have been created this way, and yet the regional mining authorities do not follow them. What are we discussing? It's about SUNAT in essence. SUNAT does its job. Let's get to the main issue. The main issue is the concessions regime. Why? because the concession regime, because many of the miners in the process of formalization are neither small nor artisanal nor large. They have a lot of money. There is a lot of movement. But what happens? Other concessions come out. So what they want is basically to have the concessions. For that, it's necessary to relax the concession regime. The concession regime lasts 30 years in Peru. In simpler terms, they want to make it 15. I ask you, would that help Peru? I think not, because there are large mining projects. For example, Quellaveco started in 93, and look at when it was built. You either eliminate or reduce the concession regime of 30 or 15 years. What you are doing is undermining one of the popular cornerstones, which is property rights. I believe that there is the main discussion because, as I told you, well, there are informal miners and miners in the process of formalization. There are some who are tiny, some are mid-sized, but there are giants. Those who are, in one way or another, pushing all this, meaning the concession system, are the ones with plenty of cash, right?
Ivan, as is customary, I sincerely appreciate your efforts in providing us with significant insights into these issues that certainly evoke a deep sense of concern about all that could transpire. All right, shifting our focus to the week after the APEC summit, which kicks off this week. We'll be in touch again to discuss new approaches. Iván Arenas, a consultant on mining, hydrocarbons, and public management, was with us. A commercial break and we'll be back.
For the year 2025, mining investment in Peru is expected to surpass $6 billion, consolidating the country as a key mining destination worldwide. Through Expo Mineros y Proveedores, MinPro 2025, we promote commercial transactions for the major mining industry and its suppliers. Reserve your spot and join the biggest mining fair in the sector. Exhibitions, conferences, and business rounds all in one place from June 24th to 25th at the Lima Convention Center. Work with Peru's leading economic entity. Don't be left out. Grab your stand at minproperu.com.
How delicious.
Well, we have reached the end of the program, Miguel, and I want to highlight the importance of what our two guests have shared with us. Distinguished guests, both former Minister Jorge González Izquierdo and Iván Arenas, an expert consultant on mining issues. The imminent danger we face regarding the approval of the extension of the Reinfo.
Yes, Cesar, it seems that some favors are being rewarded in Congress, doesn't it? For some campaign expenses that some congressmen have had with these 5 bills that have been presented and that definitely raise concerns for the future because of what formal mining is going to be in our country, right?
And especially with this rather unusual delay by the executive authority to present the law about small-scale mining, the well-known MAPE law, and I don't get why they are so stuck in making it. They can't even appoint the board of directors of Petroperu, nor can they finish a bill that should at least be ready and being debated in committees by now.
Definitely there won't be enough time to debate this bill in Congress, right?
Indeed. I'm Cesar Campos, and with Miguel Zavala, we've hosted Rumbo Minero. Stay tuned for Peru Construye, which will cover construction and infrastructure.
In 2025, mining investment in Peru is expected to surpass $6 billion, establishing the country as a major global mining destination. Through the MinPro 2025 Mining Expo and suppliers, we promote commercial transactions for the large mining industry and its suppliers. Reserve your spot and join the biggest mining fair in the sector. Exhibitions, conferences, and business meetings all in one place from June 24th to 25th at the Lima Convention Center. Do business with the main economic force of Peru. Don't miss out and book your stand at minproperu.com.